All right, everyone, welcome. It's great to see you all. Glad we're back together again this week. And you have joined the Tripp and Thompson's podcast. And this is the place that we invite everybody to come, settle in, get fed, ideally, great information to help you on your entrepreneurial journey, your career pursuits, and all the fantastic pivots that might take you into the success that you can achieve in your professional settings and dynamics, but then also life adventures along the way. So that's what we're all about here on this platform. And I'm Raquel, one of the co-hosts.
And I'm Victor, and I'm the other co-host.
Yes, you are.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we got some fun, exciting stuff planned for today. We're going to tackle maybe a conversation or a topic that some people feel uncomfortable with or uncertain about. And that's all about, seeking out loans to help fund and fuel your business, whatever the stage might be in your business. You still might be in concept stage, but you might want to start thinking about funding. You might want to be thinking about expansion or growth or product or service differentiation. Or you might want to be thinking about a complete pivot altogether. But whatever it might be, if you're in need of thinking about securing loans to help enable what it is that you want to do, we want to provide a very simplified approach to discussing it and then giving you some tools and a roadmap about how to go about those things. So when you think about it, like Victor, we've gone through a number of these with our business and especially with our real estate investing and seeking out loans and good partners, whether that be with a institution or organization or even private money lenders. We're not going to cover PMLs, private money lenders, today. Maybe we'll reserve that for another topic. It would be a good one. But when we say the words business loan, what kind of emotion or reaction does that conjure up in you?
Remember, like Mask, Jim Carrey? Boom,
boom. Oh, yeah. Wow. We're going back a little ways. Yes.
Yeah, we're going back out. Yeah. Well, I mean, for many people that I've heard talk about loans, it's like they see piles of paperwork, which no one likes paperwork because,
well, maybe some people
bearing your heart and your soul of like you have to share everything in detail about yourself.
You do.
Heck, we were just doing an inquiry about like a business opportunity the other day, and they wanted like a stack, well, not a stack, but they asked like 50 questions in order just to release some information to understand that it's not a business that we were interested in the first place.
Well, in the second place, at first it was intriguing. Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah.
And some people think, hey, you know what, I'm gonna go to a small bank because community bank, they're more friendly and everything like that, and they'll help me like navigate the loan a lot more. Thing is, some of the community banks, they still like operating on old school. They got the fax machine in the corner, and you got to take each page of that stack of paper and like stick it through the fax machine so that it can go to somewhere out in hyperspace where there's some little dude sitting with a pencil behind his ear in an office, like looking at each piece of paper. That's what I think about when you say business loan.
Wow. That sounds really unpleasant.
Yeah.
And maybe very relatable, right, to the listener who's like, I'm right with you. And that's exactly why I don't pursue business loans, or, maybe they scare me. And that's very real for everybody at some point in time until we start really understanding the language about business loans, because it's an industry and a practice that is laden with a lot of acronyms, a lot of terms that we need definition and understanding around. So as a consumer, you can make really good decisions. And especially when you have things on the line like your business, you want to caretake that really well to be successful. So
Mhm.
what we do today is we're going to break some of this down. Again, keep it really, really simple. We're not going to go into the full breadth and depth of what business loans are all about, but we just want to make sure that you information and tools available to you to help keep you going on that journey of success with your business by providing you some real world hacks, give you some storytelling in the process too. But what are the top three things that we're going to cover today?
So we're gonna cover like decoding the different loan types
Okay.
that people experience. We'll talk about you talked about terminology, so break down some of the common terminology, including for the 4 C's or like of
Hmm.
lending.
There's a
And
teaser.
then what's that?
I said there's a little teaser, the 4 C's.
The
Now
four
people are picking
C's,
up
yes, the
interest.
four
What is
C's.
this?
Not as in like, like
Sail the
the Dead
seas?
Sea or anything, yeah, or selling
Oh, which is a
yeah,
pretty
no.
cool place to be. We've been there.
Yes, we
The
have.
whole family has been there. We have floated in the Dead Sea, and it is phenomenal,
It
right?
is. Yeah,
It's
until you
just
try and get it all off your skin, but yeah, it's phenomenal.
all the salt.
Yeah,
Yeah, but it's just
that takes a
wow. I mean, it's something to experience, that's for sure.
hmm
Okay, so we're back to the 4 C's.
Yeah, so 4 C's, and then also like just prepare a checklist for you of how to be loan ready, things you should be thinking about. It always helpful to have like a little spreadsheet of some sort. It helps you get prepared, or a checklist, whatever floats your boat. Getting back to the C's thing again, but floating your boat. Yeah,
Anything will float in the Dead Sea,
that's
literally.
true. Yeah.
Literally, you can't sink in that thing.
Mm.
But spreadsheets, yes. Now that's definitely talking your language. I like spreadsheets too. I think they're a great way to get organized and do quick calculations and also just kind of to build on information. But anyway, a quick one-stop shop. Um,
Mhm,
so so
mhm.
yes, let's get busy on this, and we're going to turn this concern, uncertainty, fear, whatever maybe is the non-positive emotion that people might have, that you all listeners have potentially around what loans are and the confusing aspects of it. But we want to really make this a powerful segment so that you feel empowered to get out and do the things that you need to do. You're going to seize the moment, seize the day, go out and get loans as you need them, because you're going to be a wise and informed consumer. So let's break down the loan types. I think about, actually, as I've been thinking about this more, there are multiple people that we know of that have these mobile type of businesses.
Mm.
And some people are operating them out of like a bus or like an Airstream, and others have taken, different types of delivery trucks and gutted them and converted them into food trucks. And so, this couple of ours specifically, I think that I can bring up as an example. You know what? Since you brought up Jim Carrey and The Mask, I'm going to go even deeper into the timeline. So I'm going to call this couple Mork and Mindy.
Oh yeah, that would be like wow. And I know this couple and don't know. Okay. All
I,
right. Maybe he'd be okay with being Mork. He is kind of okay. Anyway, we'll
I,
just go with that.
I think that connection could maybe fit. I think
Mm.
so. Anyway, they so
Be
so
sure to
they
bring it up next time.
they they did this. They invested into a like a delivery type of truck, converted it into the purpose of making it a food truck.
Mm.
And their business, it was a really cool like niche concept of what they did with their business. And it took off. And as it took off, the demand grew. And in order to meet that demand, they need to be able to supply more than they could out of how they had the truck configured. So they needed to get out and purchase a second grill, which was going to cost them $30,000. So, in your humble opinion, what would you guide as far as securing a loan? What kind of options would make sense?
Hmm. Well, the cheapest option would be for them to actually go out in the front of the truck, pull that grill off the truck, and actually convert it into a barbecue pit. But
Barbecue pit.
yeah,
Okay, already preloaded with the
yeah,
protein from the bugs that have been splattered across them.
yeah, good protein. So
You know, if you
anyway,
open a food truck at some point in time, I'm thinking people are going to be a little bit skeptical about ordering.
I was just trying to think of the cheapest method, but you certainly could go out and get an SBA loan
Mhm.
possibly, which SBA is Small Business Administration. It's a government agency, and they provide relatively low interest loans. I mean, and probably some of the best rates you're going to get out there. You know, and typically all they require is like a comprehensive business plan and maybe some other signatures about what you're going to guarantee and things like that. So I mean, after you write like a 20-30 page business plan, you're good to go, right? That's one way you could do it.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah, more paperwork.
More
Yeah. Or you could go online. You know what? Skip the paperwork. We don't want to do that. We just want to put our name, phone number, and well, secured social security number or something like that, and pick out an online lender. In fact, you don't even have to pick one out. All you have to do is like type in on Google online lending or want to get a loan, and guaranteed your phone will start buzzing
Yep.
within 5 minutes. You'll get emails, all kinds of things. And more than that, they can actually get you your money pretty quickly, sometimes within like 48 hours.
Wow. Yeah,
Yep.
that's fast.
That is fast. Yep.
Okay.
And you
So
only
if
have
you're in
to
the
you only
jam,
have to like pay, 24 to 40% interest,
ouch,
something like
boom.
that, depending upon which one it is. And I mean, it'd work out just fine for you, right?
It depends.
I mean,
It de-
those are kind of like those are two options that maybe are the extremes, but the one's fast.
Mhm.
And when you want something fast, you usually have to pay for it.
Right. That's true.
Okay. And one's inexpensive, but you have to put together, your life story. So, yeah. You see
Yeah,
the trade-off?
for those that have already put together their business plan
Hmm.
and have that documentation, right? You're more than halfway there
Hmm.
in presenting it. And those of you that don't have a business plan, not a bad idea to put one together anyway,
Hmm.
just to be prepared. Um, so yeah, definitely can see the trade-offs within those. So if we think about, somewhat of like a cheat sheet. So if we were to look at individuals who are seeking, gosh, I want to grow a new business. I'm just getting started. I have concept. I have an idea. I'm ready to step into this new business. This would be something where a microloan could be helpful. Microloans are typically like around 50,000 or less. Some might go a little bit higher than that. And with a microloan, an organization that you could search and check into to get more information is Kiva, Kiva. There's many others, but trust me, once you put this into your search, you're going to get many others that'll start coming through too. So then you can do a compare and contrast and just see what works if you're at that stage in your business. One thing with Kiva, at least last that we checked on this, was that they were offering 0% interest if you crowdfund. So that's kind of just an interesting gimmick, right, that they're running to inspire people to do business with them. But fact check that, because tomorrow might be a different story. So if you're back to the cheat sheet, if you're looking at, you need equipment, kind of like Mark and Mindy, who needed to get that second grill for their food truck, equipment financing is possible. So that in this example with the food truck, the grill becomes collateral to help with the loan process. Many things can become collateral in the process, but in this example, the grill specifically. And then if you're needing a loan for cash flow purposes, this would be where seeking out a line of credit is something that you could pursue. And that's kind of like, it's like a credit card for business emergencies, really. There could be situations where maybe you're not able to cover payroll. And so you need some access to money to make sure that your employees are getting paid. Maybe there was an unexpected something that happened and you need to dip into some cash flow. So the line of credit can provide that for you. You can actually, if you're a homeowner, you could pull a HELOC, a home equity line of credit, HELOC, if you've got equity in your home or your property. So depending on the risk level, how much money you need to pull out, the lower the dollar amount, going after a HELOC would be less risky. If you're talking hundreds of thousands to millions, that might be a little bit more risky. And that would probably be something we would strongly advise not doing, because we don't believe in losing your primary residence over something, because there's other funding sources to get into.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. You're not trying to lose in order to win, right? So you're trying to create win-win scenarios, not lose-win scenarios. So and just so you know, I mean, when you take out any sort of a loan, always check the details, the fine print, things like that, to make sure you understand, what other, like, are there any hidden fees or things like that that can create a higher real interest or true interest rate, right? So there's a term used called APR, which is annual percentage rate, which gets you to the true cost of the fees, right? So understand, like, if you're also paying fees on top of what you're borrowing, that actually inflates that overall interest rate that you're getting. So just keep that in mind. So I mean, that hidden information which you find in the fine print is also kind of the little secrets that lenders have that they use to actually determine if they want to lend to you, or at what rate they want to lend to you, how much they want to lend to you, all of those little, like, things where you give them that big stack of paper, and then they stick it into some magic box, and then poof, out comes like this result, right? And there are 4 C's, the letter C, right? Okay. Actually, that's backwards now, right? So I'd have to do it like this, or no, I don't know. Anyway, there are 4 C's that lenders typically consider. They are credit, cash flow, collateral, and character. Let me just say a little bit about.
Want me to pull up a visual for this as you're talking through it?
Sure. Why don't you pull up a visual? That'd be great.
Let's do it.
So when we're talking about credit, which is the second piece on that loan resume builder down there, we're talking about, obviously, your credit score is usually your FICO score, plus some information. So if it's your personal that's going to be pulled from one of those three main lenders that we're all familiar with, or excuse me, three main like credit source companies, Experian, Equifax, TransUnion. And you can potentially also use your business credit score. We're not going to, like Raquel said, we're not getting into detail here, but look up business credit scores and understand a little bit about how you might be able to obtain a business credit so that you can use that in the future and your business is able to capitalize on the opportunity to borrow. The second thing is cash flow, which is actually on the top of this. And that is really capital proof of cash flow. Oftentimes people use either a profit and loss statement or a cash flow statement. They're not exactly the same, but they get to similar thought processes for lenders. And that is how much money is coming through your business, right? Mm-hmm. Are you circulating a lot of money month over month, and that there's available cash at the end of a month in order for you to be able to pay them back? There's also a term called debt service coverage ratio, which is probably more frequently used in the real estate industry. However, it does apply in general to the idea of how effectively am I able to cover the debt that I'm borrowing, so the debt that I create through a loan, how can I cover it? Mm-hmm. The third thing down there is collateral. And we already talked about Mork and Mindy. And, if you were taking out a loan for this grill, the grill could potentially be collateral, right? So you would use the grill as a way, it's worth $10,000. Auto loans work this way almost exclusively. The car is the collateral, and therefore, if another old movie called Repo Man, you would know that if you don't actually pay, that they come back in the middle of the night and take that car. So same thing could happen in equipment loans, is like they could come back and repossess the equipment because it might be worth something. Side note on this is that if you have something that is worth something that that you've patented or you've trademarked, copywritten, that could also serve as collateral, and that could be really, really helpful in a case like this. If you're a baker, for instance, and you have a famous cookie recipe, like the one that you experience when you go to the state fair, right? Those things they're good, right? I won't mention the name. I'll just leave it. And then the fourth one, I mentioned character, right? And on this particular loan resume builder, they list conditions. And really what that means is like, what is the loan's purpose? Like, why are you using the loan? To the extent that you have, some way to show that the conditions of the loan will actually suffice to help you be able to generate more income or something like that. And that actually will help lend credibility to your ability to be able to pay back the loan. And I think you had an example of that too, right?
I did. I do. Yeah, absolutely. So, the story being that a client of mine, we'll call her, since we're staying on like these show names, Maleficent. And she opened an Etsy shop. Super cool. Really happy for her. And anyway, when she first opened it, she sought out to get a loan, and she got denied. She got super frustrated, didn't understand like why she couldn't get the funding that she needed to help get her business like the jump start it needed. And then with the shop being open on Etsy, she started to get orders coming in. Well, then she showed the lender the listing of the pre-orders that she got, which were at that point in time like $15,000 worth of pre-orders. Pretty cool for her.
Mhm.
That was enough to show cash flow proof. And so then the lender went ahead and approved a $50,000 loan for her that she was able to secure the following week. So there's just creative ways, and this isn't necessarily creative, it's justifiable. But it was a pivot that she was able to figure out, like, okay, how do I get their attention? And this was her ability to get their attention. So what we want you, the listener, the viewer, to do is take on this interactive challenge. So we have the loan resume builder up on the screen for you. Take a screenshot of it, or review the podcast again, or take notes. But identify what is your strongest C, and just rest assured that maybe you don't have to spend more time in that, because that's something that you're capable of replicating over and over and over again. But then also identify what's your weakest one. And that's an area you want to explore further. You want to make sure you're getting more educated, accessing sources to make sure that you're, again, making good decisions for your business. But spend time in that area so that you're really well-rounded and a wise borrower, so that when you're in conversations with lenders, you know what you're talking about, and you feel confident about the questions you're asking and the information you're getting, so that when you choose to move forward with a loan, you feel really good about that commitment that you're making. But go ahead, send us a message. You can do that on our YouTube channel, on Instagram, on Facebook, anything that you need help or tips around, or just let us know. How's it going for you? We'd love to hear this. We talked about documents earlier, and especially, when you were talking about an SBA loan and having to put together that business plan and justify the reasoning for seeking out a loan. But there are documents that are really important to have. We call this the 5-page game changer. So the thing is that we want to focus on what's the number one approval killer when it comes to individuals seeking out loans for their business, and it's missing paperwork. So we created a list of must-haves. And what are those must-haves?
So you can't just simply say your dog ate it or something like that. It doesn't
You
work.
can. You absolutely can do that. I don't think it will help you move forward with securing a loan. You might add a little humor in the conversation with the lender. Might be a good way to show some of your character.
Yeah. Well, it used to work in school, right? I mean, so you have to.
I don't know how well it worked, but yes.
You try.
You try.
So some of the key documents you might need are things like your last 2 years tax returns, both your personal and your business tax returns, if you have filed business tax returns. And if you haven't, and you should have, then that's a whole different story. But make sure you keep track of your tax returns so that you can use them in a case like this, because most lenders will ask for that. They'll also ask for bank statements. Usually, you want to have on hand about 6 months worth. They may not ask for that many, but it's helpful to have that many, just so you can go back and you can also show, how well cash is circulating through your bank account. That's a positive. Remember, we talked about cash flow earlier. Well, that's another way to show cash flow is through your bank account. And then also character can be shown by not having any negative things like NSF fees or things like that showing up on your bank statement. Profit loss statements we talked about before, so P&Ls or any other.
I'm going to pull up an example of what you're talking about that.
Sure.
Just to give a visual for everybody.
So P&L statements like the one that's shown up there, which really just gets you to the point of being able to see what's your net profit. And it's like, if we look at it month over month, quarter over quarter, year over year, we're able to get a better understanding for how strong the business is and how much is actually growing. So And then lastly, you want to make sure you always have your business licenses and things like that available for the banker, because that's something where you can get it from, typically you're going to register with the Secretary of State, or I should say you have an EIN number with the federal government. Both are preferable, to be totally honest. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So here's the thing. A quick hack is take the time, even push pause and do it now, because this takes literally seconds to complete. And maybe you've already done it, but in whatever platform you prefer to store your folders in, go ahead and create one that is your loan ready folder for your business. You just want to make sure that we're doing all of these easy, quick prep actions so that when you are needing them, they're readily available. But also, if you're on your journey with your business, this might be time for you to start loading that loan ready folder up with some of the key things that you need to. So let's go ahead and refresh that. So around the loan ready documents, you're going to create that folder. And as Victor mentioned, your tax returns, so you want the last 2 years in there. You want to make sure that this folder is under a passcode. So it's very, very protected because you're putting important documentation in here. And then you can continue to store your returns in here year over year. Your bank statements. So again, download your bank statements every month. Just get in that habit and then put them into the folder so that you have quick access to them. Your legal documents, the business license, any contracts that you might have, financial statements. And then pro tip is go ahead and upload this to your accountant, to your CPA, whoever it is that you're working with, so that they have access to it. One, it's just when they're ready to go and start doing your tax preparations, they already have all the information. Two, it also allows them to have access so that should they need something and it's not in there, it prompts them to reach out to you with a reminder of what things you need to get into that folder. So again, great tool to have.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can make sure you encrypt your folder if you are uploading it and sending it to your accountant, just so only your accountant is looking at it and no one else. But we talked about documents. We've talked about terms. Mm-hmm. But kind of helpful to know, okay, well, when should you be borrowing, right? Because a lot of people falsely assume that it's like, hey, I need money really badly because I don't have enough to do this. So that's when I should borrow. But the ideal situation for borrowing is when you are making revenue generating moves. Things like, Mork and Mindy, when they had to buy their equipment so they could serve more clients, right? So they're going to serve 2-3 times more clients. That's a revenue generating move. By making that $30,000 purchase, they can actually show in a forecast that it's going to bring in $100,000 or more, right? Mm-hmm. So that's revenue generating. Another way to think about it is, like, for instance, you have a big order that you have confirmed and you need inventory for it. So you make the inventory purchase so that you can actually deliver on the big order. So that can be a way that borrowing makes sense. And then also sometimes there are things like you may have done a small beta test for your marketing and you found that you got these great results. Well, now you want to actually put more toward it. And this might be a time when, for instance, if you have a line of credit, because a marketing campaign probably isn't going to cost you, hundreds of thousands of dollars. But what I can say is this, is that if you do that and you have you have a line of credit, you can use that to actually, pay for your marketing campaign so that it can then pay off, and then you put the money back into your line of credit. So.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. You know, so one thing we do want to alert about is that do not take out loans to cover business losses.
Mm.
This is not a good move. You know, it's so similar to, and if any of you are doing this, stop. If you are taking out a new credit card to pay off another credit card, no, we can't be doing this. So again, loans are purpose for revenue generating moves. All right. And just like the list that you just shared with people, but not for losses.
Mhm.
Please refrain from doing that. Protect yourself, protect your business.
Yeah, it can be really tempting in those situations. And while we're not, maybe we'll have to do an episode on like, okay, what to do when, your business is like, taking a downturn and, but there are different things that you can do, strategies you can take if you need help with that.
Mhm.
Shameless plug, give us a call. We'd be willing to help you out like with that piece of it. And there is an exception. You can do emergency loans. I think, Brickell, you brought up earlier that, like, for instance, if you might have a line of credit secured for times when you're trying to plug a gap in payroll or something like that. Those are
Yeah.
short-term situations where you're gonna like put that money right back right away.
Mhm.
That could also happen in a case with things like a credit card. If, for instance, if you like actually had like a piece of equipment or something like that break down that was necessary for you to continue to operate your business, you might then do something to borrow money quickly so that you can get it repaired and get back into making money for the business, because you wouldn't want to be inoperable for a period of time. So
Mhm.
but try and avoid them at all costs. Yep.
Yep. Absolutely. All right. Well, let's do a micro game show about matchmaking. And the matchmaking is going to be between the situation and then what is the type of loan that individuals could think about securing. So I'm gonna provide the situation, and then you make the recommendation of what type of loan would maybe be best suited for that situation. You ready?
I guess I don't know what you're gonna throw out here, but okay.
Okay. Um, I need under $50,000 and I need it fast.
Probably that might be a time when you go online and look at some of the online lenders because you need it fast, right? So,
Okay. All right. Now I'm buying a piece of equipment for my business and it's going to cost me $100,000.
hmm. Well, I mean, if possible, you might go through the place you're purchasing the equipment from and see if you can do equipment financing directly through them. Otherwise, you could always do it through a bank as well.
Okay. Okay. And now the last one, I have over a 700 credit score.
Well, the higher your credit score, the lower the interest rate is you can secure. So, and also the less proof of concept you'll need. So, even though SBA wants a full business plan, they may, for instance, take even a scale down business plan if you have a really strong credit score, because they know you're good for it in the end, right? So,
Mhm.
no, I mean, that'd be possible. That was, did you have more? Because I mean, if
Well,
you're,
so then, okay, what happens if it's the opposite? What if my credit score, like I had some hardship and my credit score is like close to 500?
yeah, I know. Well, I mean, that can happen, and I mean, if your credit score is like that, the biggest temptation is to use something like a merchant cash advance. So if you've seen like payday loans and places like that, they
Mhm.
charge exorbitant um, interest rates, like 40, 50%. And you
Ouch.
want to avoid those if possible. Um, if you had no other way of dealing with an emergency, then maybe. But you might want to check into talking to a friend or finding somebody, who might be able to get you a loan. And that's where like private money lending, where you get somebody to lend you some money that isn't a formal lender, can be beneficial for you. And then also, it's just about being prepared, right? So that's another plug for having your business plan, because then you can go into agencies that there are a lot of support agencies that do work. And you can look those up as well. But
Yeah. So, part of what we're going to recommend for you all is some homework in a little bit. But just to kind of prime this, we want to think about, how do we go about loan comparisons just to make sure that you're making an informed decision. So this is a simplified version. You want to identify a few different lenders, at least 3 would be great. So you list who the vendor is by name, the type of loan that they provide. Lenders will provide multiple types of loans. This is, again, a simplified version, but also the loan that probably you're trying to pursue. So you want to capture what that is. What's the amount of the loan that they are willing to lend up to? The maximum. There might be a range that they would provide. So you want to capture that. What's the APR connected to it? So what is that percentage? Also check into making sure that there isn't anything hidden within that, meaning there could be a early payback penalty. So let's say that with this first one, with Bluevine, the term is for 12 months and you want to pay back that loan at month 8. There might actually be a penalty that they impose if you pay that loan back. They actually want you to play out the full 12-month term because they want to make their money. So these are things you need to know. Then you're going to list the terms of the loan, the fees, any hidden fees, exposed fees. You want to keep asking what other fees are attached to this loan type. And then also understand what is the loan best used for and how to apply that. You want to make sure that that loan is applicable to your specific needs. You want to have a good match that way. Okay, so homework. You are going to take the 4C audit. And so just as a reminder, let me pull that one up for you again real quick. Here we go. So you want to think about the resume builder. So those are the 4 C's. Identify the one that you are doing really well in and the one that maybe needs a little bit more attention. You need to strengthen that muscle into it. And then you're going to call one lender this upcoming week, one lender. That's all you need to do. If you want to do more, fantastic, go for it. That would be great because then we want you to fill out a form like this. But you're going to call one lender and just ask questions. And you can use this tip sheet as the type of questions that you want to ask. Make sure you're getting all of the good information that you need. And then again, drop us a note, right? Hit us up on YouTube, on Instagram, on Facebook, and let us know how it's going for you. What are you learning? What are you finding out? How are you getting loans to secure your business? And also help us understand maybe some loan tips that you have. We'd love to hear about that so that we can further share information for all of you great people who join us every week.
That's true. And remember, banks really do want to say yes. They love recycling the money that we actually give them to hold for us. So you just need to show them the math, because if you show them the math, then they'll show you the money.
Show me the money.
Yeah, another old like movie reference there, right?
Man, what's going on with us today? Yes. Hey, we appreciate all of you being here with us. It's so important, building community, having a platform to come to that we can talk openly and honestly and address real things that are impacting you as a professional, you as an entrepreneur, and the journey of success. It takes all of us. It takes a lot of information. It takes times that we need to stretch ourselves and grow, especially in areas that we don't have knowledge or understanding around. But the important thing is that you're taking steps to keep moving forward. And we want to be on this journey with you. So keep us informed of ways that we can help support you. We'd be happy to coach you through situations or be a sounding board. Whatever it is that you might need that way, we're here for you. We believe in you. Now go out and get it.
Go out and get it.